All right, guys, how's it going? Eastbayanglers out here. We're talking today about Lake Chabot and Crappie. We're bringing up Crappie right now because Crappie are actually really the best bite is starting right about now and will go all the way through to about the first week of January. That's when maybe the end of December. That's when the best crappie fishing actually happens, not in the spring in March or April or May, depending on where you are in the country. But the crappie fishing, really the big crappie and big numbers come in that winter, late fall period. So let's talk today about Lake Chabot. Lake Chabot is a fishery that is known to have crappie. In the old days, I talked to these guys. These guys would rage and rave about, oh, I got this many crappie and I got that many crappie. And man, back in the day, man, we used to catch so many fish, man. Oh, man, we used to kill it. Oh, man, we couldn't, man, you got the guys out there telling you, oh, we didn't even have to put anything. We just put a hook, tied on a hook and dangled it down there and we would catch fish, right? You guys might have heard that one. It's funny, right? Okay. So there's a lot of things, when it comes to Chabot secrets, and we're going to tell you a secret today. And that's the crappie population is alive and well in that lake. There are plenty of crappie in there. Now, the crappie population has actually been there forever, pretty much, but it was decimated. People were really doing good for crappie in the 70s and the early 80s, mid 80s, even the, all the way until the early 90s, the crappie just completely disappeared. Mostly, they just were not as abundant as they were. And, the fishing was great. And we went through a long period where the crappie suffered, but they're still in there. And I want to talk to you guys today about the top 5 baits that you want to throw when you're going for crappie at Lake Chabot. Let's say you're targeting crappie. What are you going to throw? All right, here you go. First thing, a jig. All right, when I say a jig, I mean a very simple jig. It'll have a jig head, a single hook, and like it could have a tube on the back or something of that nature. You're looking, if you look up crappie tube online, we're going to show you a picture here of what a crappie jig looks like. And the next thing that you're really going to want to fish, other than a crappie jig that's really in bold, bright colors, so black and chartreuse, purple and chartreuse, other than that kind of stuff, you're really going to want to focus on fishing anything that looks like, a small crawfish pattern, so I really like the Rebel crawfish, the small one. It's red and black. I slow roll that on top a lot of times in weedy areas, or structure, and I get bit quite a bit. So that's one, but there's a variety of small crankbaits in the craw pattern that work really well. Another thing that works really well is the float and fly technique. The float and fly technique, or floating any type of bait under an indicator or a bobber, as some people call it, would really be one of the next ideal options. And the next thing we're going to talk about is a bit interesting. It's pretty much the last thing, but it's maybe the most important. So what you want to do is you essentially want to get a small jig, crappie jig, tube jig, something along that nature, but you want to tie a polymono knot so that you can have that tag, and you want to have about a 12-inch tag from there, and you want to tie another one on, and then you want a 12-inch tag from there, and you're going to want to tie another one on. And this is going to be a technique where when you get the water, when you're on a boat or when you're off a dock, you can just up and down, and you can kind of up, down, and just go side to side and kind of do like a W or an M or whatever you want to, and you're going to do that motion with your right hand or left hand, depending on which hand you use, and up and down, very slow, very much methodical. It matters, and you guys will be very surprised. Now, a lot of times those crappie hang out right where that dirty water meets the clear water. So it's right where well, more or less where that really dirty water starts to dissipate, and you got some clarity in there. So, they like stained water. They like murky water, but I mean muddy water, for the most part. They, and they definitely like docks, and they definitely like structure in general. Keep all this in mind, guys. And the reason you go 3 is that is the state legal limit for hooks. And 3 sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's nicer to fish because 1, you can try different colors, and different colors really make a difference. 2, you can vary the length between each jig. And the third thing I really like about it is it just casts out a lot better. So it casts out a lot better than, say, 1 ultra finesse jig, crappie jig, or tube, or maybe you're using something else like a hair jig or something else. But there's just a variety of jigs that people use for crappie. So Lake Chabot, guys, crappie fishing, man, that stuff is phenomenal. All the way from spring, you can fish them in the summer at night as the sun's going down, the sun's coming up, and all that's good stuff. Fish them in the fall, not as good. You can do it. And in the winter, guys, like I'm telling you, it is phenomenal. So Lake Chabot has some really big crappie caught out of there, and don't underestimate it. So you go out there and you guys get some crappie. Let us know how you do. Let us know how you've done. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Thanks.